How's it going? Today I'm going to be covering 217 contains duplicate. So for this question, we're trying to see if there is a duplicate inside of the integer array nums, and then if there is, we return true, and if there isn't, we return false. And essentially, let's say in this case we're given this array. There is a duplicate, right? The 1 shows up more than once, and we return true. And basically how you want to go about this question is that you want to create a set, right? So here I'm going to start by creating a set. Scene is equal to sets, right? And we're starting this off as an empty set. And then, that's how it would look like, right? There's nothing in it. We haven't added anything. So then we're given this array, right? We're given this array of 1, 2, 3, and then 1. There is a duplicate, and we know that, but then how are we going to do that? How are we going to check if there is a duplicate? So essentially, you want to loop through this array, right? You want to loop through 1, you start at 1, then you go to 2, then you go to 3, and then you go to 4. Basically, you go to the last index, right? And as you're looping through it, let's say you start at 1, is 1 inside of scene, right? Is 1 inside of this empty array? It is not. So then you add it, right? You add it to this empty, not array. You add it to this empty set, and then it would look like this, right? And then essentially what you're doing is then you're looping through the next one. Is 2 inside of 1, inside of the set that has 1, right? No, it is not. So then we just add it. So then now the new set is equal to 1 and 2. So then we loop through it. We compare. Is this inside of here? It is not, right? So then now we have 2 and then 3. Now here we're at 4, right? We're at 1. Is 1 inside of scene? We've seen all these numbers already. Now, have we seen 1? We have seen 1. So then you just cut out. You just return true, right? You return true because there is a duplicate, and the duplicate's right here. And then what are we going to do if, let's say here, instead of 1, we have 4. So there's no duplicate, right? This is the array, and then we're at the last iteration like before. Is 4 inside of the set of scene, right? This is scene. Is 4 in here? It is not. So then what we do is what we've always done. We add it to the scene list. And since there's no duplicate, what do? We return false. Now let's type this up. Now that we're here, then we go to scene. We're creating the set, right? So essentially, we start off with an empty. And then if we're given the first example, we start off with nums being 1, 2, 3, and 1. And then we're iterating through it for num in nums, right? So what this is doing is num is essentially every iteration we're going through it. And then nums is the array. Num is every iteration, and nums is the array. So here we're starting off with 1. So if num in scene, right? So if we've already seen this number before, then there's clearly a duplicate, right? So then you return true. So essentially what you're doing in these lines of code is you iterate once, you're at 1. And then is 1 inside of scene? Well, scene is empty right now, so it is not. So what do you do when it's not? You add 1 to scene, right? So scene.add, and we're adding 1 to scene. Then now we're at the end of it. We're at the end of the loop, and then we go back. So now we're at 2, right? We finished everything, we're at 2. So for 2 in nums, if 2 is in scene, is 2 Now this is the new scene. Is 2 in there? It is not, so then we add it, and it keeps going until the end of the list, right? And then essentially, if you're given, let's say, 1 through 4, right? You're given 1 through 4. There is no duplicate. So essentially, you're iterating through this, and then there's nothing. So then you don't return true, and you return false instead. There is no duplicate. Now let's submit this. And there you go. That's essentially how that works. And that is 217 contains duplicate.